Welcome back to the George James Associates Research Tools channel. My name is Stephen Lee, and in this short video, I'm going to cover the three main types of abstracts that I see in the, 10 to 20 articles or more that I read each week, as well as the types of abstracts that I myself have either constructed in my own work or in the work that I've collaborated with other researchers. The first type, and this is very journal specific, is some journals will take your abstract and tell you to take it out of paragraph form and put it into 5 subheadings, subsections. So in this case, with the Journal of Financial Crime, we see that the paper abstract has been split up between purpose, design, findings, practical implications, and originality. These two lines right here actually aren't part of the abstract, although they often accompany it. There should really be a space between there, but I guess in this journal's formatting there isn't. The keywords, the important part of the keywords is that they are there because the journal wants you to be able to help the journal index its articles a lot easier. And by indexing, that means where other journals and other researchers can pick it up in their own works. Also that they can search for things a lot easier. So the keywords that you're putting here is what's going to go into the search algorithms of Google and other search engines. So that way, maybe EBSCO, so that way when a researcher is searching, doing the literature review, and they type in gender or white collar crime or any of these things, then this article will go into the mix of the results. So this is one type of abstract that I see often with specific journals. Another one, this is a paper that I co-authored that's in the submission process. And you can see here, maybe not as well, so let's zoom in a little bit. This one dives directly, this type of abstract dives directly into the methods and the results and the data. And it really doesn't talk about the theoretical framework very much, doesn't talk even about research question that much, doesn't talk about implications or future research possibilities. So it sticks mainly to the methods section of the paper, and you can tell that by the language that's in the abstract. So using a unique data set, right, that's talking about the data. Let's see here. So enriched, binary logistic regression is a very common term for in the methods for one of the techniques that statisticians use and researchers use. So unobserved differences, right? There's a lot of language here that's used regardless of what the subject matter is. Bias, predictor. So there's quite a lot of language here. And again, the reason why some abstracts focus exclusively on the methods is because really the abstract is it's your place to showcase your work and to focus on your contribution to the literature. That's why the literature review sections almost receive no attention in the abstract, no mention at all, because the abstract really isn't about other works upon which you've based your contribution. It's about your contribution itself. And so the reason why you see abstracts sometimes that deal almost exclusively with methodology is because either there's a contentious debate going on in that field regarding the methodology, and so by focusing exclusively on that, you're really addressing that readership, the readers that are very familiar with that debate. The other reason may be because you are following closely on the footsteps on the heels of previous research that's been published in this area. And so you want to just slightly tweak the methodology or maybe expand it a little bit. And so that way you're really, again, you're inserting very specifically into the literature and where your contribution lies. So those are two reasons why a lot of times the abstract will just focus almost exclusively on the methodology. Here again, we see keywords. If you're in a field within social sciences that's financial in nature, so economics, finance, financial planning, then you will see what's called a GEL classification oftentimes. And what that is there's a table that's used to further index and narrowly source published works. And I don't remember off the top of my head, I'm not the one that did this, but I think the main author did this, but G23 and D18 are two of the many different classification modifiers that are in the GEL system. And depending on what you're writing about in the financial area, you will use different GEL classifications to which your paper most closely aligns. Lastly, some journals will ask that you produce either an author note that encompasses things like a disclosure statement or a conflict of interest statement or a funding statement. Those are pretty much synonymous. And so what the journal wants to ensure is that you are not receiving funding from a source, and that the fact that you're receiving the funding and it's making it possible for you to do the research, you are not then skewing the findings to benefit your benefactor, essentially. So, for instance, let's say that FINRA, right, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, had given us funds. That's important to put in the disclosure statement because maybe there's some sort of relationship, which there's not, by the way. I'm just making this up. Let's suppose that there was some sort of either overt or covert relationship between FINRA and the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, right, the CFP board, which again there isn't. But let's suppose that there was. That would be very it would be very important to know whether or not you receive funding from either one of those. And so that's why there's an author note or a conflict of interest statement or a funding statement that many journals will require. Even if there's nothing, you just say there's no conflict of interest to declare, there's no funding to declare, and then you move on. The last, and my personal favorite type of abstract, is the one that summarizes the main body of the text. And it does so, when I say summarize, I don't mean cutting and pasting snippets of the main body and throwing it into the abstract. In my opinion, that's very lazy writing, even though a lot of people do it, and you see a lot of published works that do it. It drives me nuts when I see that, because it's, in my opinion, it's like, what, you literally couldn't take the time to just rewrite 150 words, which is, by the way, the length that your abstract should be, is around 150 words. I've never seen a minimum word count limit, but the maximum I've seen as low as 150 words. So here we can see that this first sentence, right, is it's a declarative equivalent to a research question, and then it dives into methodology with Monte Carlo simulation. Trinity studies is the theoretical framework, so the abstract doesn't necessarily go step by step through each of the sections of the paper, so they can, right, it might make more sense to just shuffle those around a little bit. In this case, I talk about methodology a little bit before theoretical framework. But again, there's no mention here at all of literature review, because it's right, it has no place in the abstract, in my opinion. And then here I have two different types of findings and results that I talk about, right? The single instance of fraud finding of 3%, the serial result of essentially 0%, if you read through that sentence carefully. And then the last two that I think are very important, the last two elements that you should include in an abstract, rather than just under the caveat that's all too commonly used, future implications and future research, or research implications and future research are discussed. You see that a lot of times in abstracts, and again, I think that's very lazy writing. Instead, you should actually give examples of implications as well as future research, which I do here. That's much better. And so together, this is a nice summary, I think. I mean, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but I think that this is a succinct summary of my research. And again, try to keep it to about 150 words. And this constitutes the third of three main types of abstracts that I see. So to recap briefly, the first type is when your abstract is broken out of, it's taken out of that paragraph form that you see on this screen, and it's instead placed into subsections. So some journals will make you do that. That's one type of abstract. The second is what we saw previously, where it focuses almost exclusively on the methodology, on the data and the results. And then lastly is this one, which is a more it's a more comprehensive summary of the main body of the text. I will be producing a video soon that talks about the step-by-step process of producing a quality abstract. And I will actually take an abstract that I've written previously, and I will show you how I would improve it today, and how I probably will improve it before I send it out again. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.